empathy, not having dominant empathy, it's definitely not a get out of kindness for free card. You can't be an A-hat because you don't have dominant, right? So there it is. So how can you? That's the question, is how can you be self-aware, socially aware, managing your, culturally aware? How can you manage all of these things? And, how can you do that with using your strengths? And I kind of told you, like, right in the beginning, right? When I said, my achiever, my drive to get things done, right? And produce results, it's always influenced by emotion.
Now, what's your background?
I am human resources. So I associate director at a university of human resources. So I have sales management, executive. That was my second career. I already had my grown-up career. So that was my second one, but I'd been there a decade. So
wow.
My heart is full. My heart is full. I love every day of working, and I always have. I have been blessed to make a difference with every step that I take, and allowed to recognize that in others. I'm best known as a resource for humans. That's the role I play in HR. So
yeah, I love it.
Employee relations, training and development. And that was a gut punch for me. Well, when you love something with your whole heart, your heart can break. I mean, no regrets though. So I would never do a job that I didn't love and put my whole heart into it, because then I wouldn't be excellent at my job. Right.
That's right. That's right. So you had sales background before you started the HR with the university?
Mm-hmm. Marketing degree, so business administration, marketing, and graduate work in leadership and communication.
Wow.
And then, so I did retail, started like sales floor teams, and then climbed up I worked in New York from Topeka, Kansas. So,
little bit of a change there.
Yeah, no, I mean, we moved I went to 13 different high schools, before I graduated, or 13 different schools before I graduated high school. So, the table was set. I knew we were moving. So I don't like spaghetti. Not a fan. And then, so I wanted to raise my daughter. I was always so envious of people that knew the same kids that they grew up, that they knew, my childhood friend, I went to kindergarten with this kid, right? I didn't have that till Facebook, right? Or, I mean, so we, longest I ever lived somewhere was like 3 years in Omaha, Nebraska. So I was like, my daughter is going to live in one place, right? I just want stability for her, which, she did, all she wanted to do was move. So whatever. But I said, I'm going to do that. And in order to do that and be okay in my soul, I had to marry really well, number one. And, and have the ability to travel. So, because then I wouldn't move her, is that right, you get that bug?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, were your parents military or in sales, or why'd you? Oh, okay.
So like promotion. My mom, school teacher.
Okay.
And dad, IBM. So sales and yeah.
What impact did all that moving have on you?
Serious case study. Like I always call myself a case study.
Yeah.
So 2 sisters, I'm the middle, and I always had sports. So I just joined the team and made friends super easy. And my younger sister is a lot younger. So they stayed put when she was like in grade school, like assess the damage of the older 2, and we should probably stay.
Right.
Risk assessment.
Right.
So, I mean, she moved a lot, but not after, like 5th grade, they were steady. Right.
Okay.
We just different. Like my older sister would get a boyfriend, I would join a team. So just different way of coping. I just have never been afraid to walk into a group and join.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Just so that's great. And you mentioned the case study, right? I mean, I'm just thinking about the emotional impact and the emotional impact on you and also the impact on how, maybe at some point in your life, how you viewed relationships and how you approached relationships, just just knowing for a season of your life that, let's see, I'm going to know you for probably 2 months or 6 months or however long, and then I'm out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Has your relationship awareness and management have had to change and grow and evolve based on that experience? I can't imagine that would not be traumatic emotionally.
I move on pretty easy.
Okay.
And it's not okay. It's not that I don't love deep, because I love deep, right? I love deep. I'm super independent. Absolutely, it affects all of us differently. I really have very little issue letting go. I was also engaged like 6 different times. So case
Okay.
study.
Yeah. Right.
It's not
Right.
hard for me to move. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just independent. And,
Yeah.
my husband and I lived together for 10 years before I said I do. Commitment's easy. Maybe independence is key for me. Like I have to know that I'm okay by myself.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Sure.
Um,
Okay. And
yeah.
so, no, that's great. And thank you for your transparency and your vulnerability. I've got, my, a big audience in our podcast and YouTube channel and stuff are military. That's my background is military. And so, a lot of my friends, even them are maybe second generation military. So just, just always moving in that dynamic impacts a lot of military families, children, the parents and stuff of, hey, sorry, little Johnny, little Susie. Hey,
Yeah. Gotta go.
yeah, right. And, each, depending on the personality, I just feel like that impacts everybody differently. Of course, that experience of constantly moving. So, yeah, no, that's interesting to see. I just love to see how people's childhoods impact our behaviors today as adults and those decisions that some that we're aware of and some that we're not aware of.
Mm-hmm.
How was your relationship with your family as a kid?
We had an awesome family. Like, I'm super blessed. Like that's, and we all have different memories of our childhood. So I have almost zero, like people will say like, you did this. I'm like, whatever. Like, I'm like, really, I don't recall, that was a chapter, turn the page. That was a chapter, turn the page.
Got
What
it.
lessons did you learn? Did you take from it? And, and I think that's what I, how I always say it is in my life, I've, my path, our journey, I've been able to strategically place a lot of stones, right? And see ahead and place where I want to go. Ambitious achiever, number one. And then life's rocks, right? They roll right in. They roll in,
Right.
spaghetti for dinner. Awesome.
Right.
Table set. So, and my choice at each rock was, how do I deal with that rock? Do I let it hit me on the head? Do I, do I duck? Do I catch it, throw it back? Do I, whip it at somebody weaker than me? What do I do with that rock? And I have, luckily, maybe positivity number 4, I don't know, like that's just looking back. But I mean, I have always embraced them as an opportunity, right? Like, new, like, if there was something I didn't like about, what was, what happened in those 18 months that we lived there, like I get to reinvent. Woo. And then when, reorg from my grown-up career, my favorite, when that ended in a 3-minute listen only, voice, whatever conference call, right? And you're just like, what? Uh, in the generation of you give your all to this one company, loyalty brand, like, and they will reward you, with that watch or whatever, whatever
Right.
you saw your
Right.
your dad do, like you're
Right.
just like, what? And you just threw me away and they're gonna what? Express me a box from a laptop? Like I have 40 laptops because I'm, director of field training for the continental US, but okay, I'm like, what? And then I was like, that helped. I had built that resilience, right?
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I melted because I identified with what
Sure.
I did. However, that was a life lesson. And that was an opportunity to say, okay, I was, near 40-ish at the time. And I go, who gets to reinvent themselves at 40? Like, who gets to look at this, you know, high power career job, pick just what they loved of it and go for that job. Right.
Wow.
Um, and then I always thought, the more you make, the more you spend. I have never, well, I was a single mom for a while. So I know that you do what you got to do. Right. I
Right.
mean, I'll work 12 jobs if it means rent's got to get paid.
Right.
I've never asked anyone that's ever worked for me to do something I am not willing to do myself. I,
Yeah.
I just don't believe in that. Nobody's job on this planet is more important than someone else's. Because if you
Right.
don't do yours, I can't do mine. If and if I can't empower you to do yours with you know, the autonomy to get it done in the best of your abilities, then I'm setting you up for failure. I gotta, I have to just give you the desired outcome and then be here to give you support and direction however it is you need it in the right mixture, right?
Yeah.
Because you got to do it your way. I just need, as a leader, need to remove the obstacles so you can do good work. And I watched my dad do that. I don't know if I learned this from him or I watched it, and then learned to label it later. I'm not quite sure. I learned that people really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Like, I know that
That's
that is
right.
just cliche, but our generation needs to tell the next generation this. Like, it needs to be repeated. Just because we learned it doesn't mean it doesn't have worth. I mean,
That's right.
it's a lesson that needs to be passed on because it's so true. If you don't care about someone, they're going to give you the please drive through. You're not a stakeholder in their life. And I was just telling my mom, I remember the first retail job I had, and I hired a bunch, high school kids, right? And I remembered giving them all this laminated card that I crafted, made with a quarter on it, because that's how much a call cost back in the day, right? Payphones. And because I just never wanted them stuck somewhere at a party or somewhere. And I was their boss, like I was their boss, but I said, this is I care enough about you. No questions asked. Don't get in the car with somebody. You just don't. Or if you're messed up and your car's there, just use this and call me. And no questions asked. I will come and get you. And so that you're home safe. And I was like, I really did that. I was like, what, 22, 21 right out of college, like whatever. And I was like, and I did that.
Wow.
And
That's
I was like,
awesome.
I know. And I was like, they probably thought half of them probably thought you dork, stalker. I just
No, that's
remembered,
great.
but I remembered that was, I think, how I decided to define myself as someone in their life or whatever. And then I hope that they did that too
Yeah, sure, sure.
with inflation. I mean, it may have been an envelope or
Right, right. That's
cell
right. That's
phone.
right. Okay, so when did you get into StrengthsFinder, Clifton StrengthsFinder? When did you get exposed to that content and that material?
Way back. I mean, when I had, 50 stores in 7 states, right? I didn't get to spend much time with, these people that manage these stores, right? And so pretty quick, I needed to know how to connect with them. And doing that, I found out, because that's the hardest part of communication, is finding, your connection first. And I did that by identifying what they were best at. And then that evolved into, I found out, like, let's do some research into this and do some, some things. And that brought me to strengths. And then I knew exactly, because then there was science behind it, that, I would have specialists. You were the visual merchandising specialist, you were the communication specialist, you were this. And then it evolved into gifting, executives. As I moved up and traveled with people, I was like, let's see what you're really wired with. Let's identify what your natural abilities, your patterns of behaving, acting, and doing, like what those are. And then let's learn how to lean into them.
Love it. Love it. So, what are your top 5 strengths, Marta?
I am achiever, strategic, learner, positivity, and arranger. And positivity, I wear it like, I was like, I hope it's on today. I wear it like that one just is woven into every single thing I do.
Love it. Oh my goodness,
Mhm.
that's awesome. So, achiever, strategic, learner, positivity, and arranger. For those of you all that are listening, now if you have been following me on my podcast for a while, you know that I have talked about StrengthsFinder 2.0, and now discover
Mhm.
your strengths is actually before StrengthsFinder
Yeah.
2.0, and go put your strengths to work. And there's a whole
Mhm.
series of these books, and they are phenomenal. I strongly, highly encourage you
Mhm.
all to check out StrengthsFinder 2.0 and find out what your strengths are. And I want to get into some details about the relationship and the intersection between somebody's strengths and emotional intelligence. So, one of the questions here, how does knowing your strengths help with emotional intelligence?
Love it. So once you actually know, who you are, right? And can identify with your inner self, right? And self-awareness. And I'm all in with, Clifton Strengths is my favorite, of course, because it's the one that I identify with most. However, I'm going to tell you, go for it if it's going to give you self-awareness because anything you can do to find out, right, who you are. And then with mine, say like my achiever, right? If I look at that from an empathetic lens, right? So if I take my achiever and I can say like my drive to get things done is like produce results is it's always influenced by my awareness and expression of emotion. That can tie, like I know that to be true about myself. And I can, I'm aware of that. And with my strategic, I can go one by one with mine. And because of my deep dive with, the research into mine and, strategic, like my brain works 5 steps ahead all the time. And so I'm always course identifying, right? This way, this way, this way, this way. And so when charting a course, I consider not only like possible options in my head, but I'm also anticipating emotional implications with my heart. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Love
Okay.
it.
And then positivity is probably and you share this one with me so you can do this too, like the regulator knob, right? Because this can also be a blind spot for me. So like I pay attention to everything. That's I hear body language out loud, blessing and a curse. So I possess like a keen sense of others, how they feel, right? And when someone's emotions need to be lightened or lifted, I have the power to do that, as do you. I've seen you do it, right? Watched you do it, watched your magic. I also know that when you have this power, it's also a responsibility because what if they just need to feel?
Mm.
And I'm saying that as if it wasn't painful discovery journey. I have a daughter, right? Which I'm like, everything's funny. Not everything's funny. And so, oh, it can be, no, it not, so, insert your own child here. I had to learn, I hold the knob on my own regulator for positivity. And there are times, mom, that I need to go, because I don't want to see her in pain ever. I never want to see her in pain. I want to fix it. I want to fix it right now. However, I have to let her feel it's her time to stretch, struggle, and grow. I have to honor that. That's honoring. And so I have to say with my whole heart listening, right? And I have to go, I'm sorry to hear that. And just acknowledge emotion or that sucks. Maybe that sucks. How can I help? Do you want help? And a lot of times the answer is no. She just wants me to hear it. Or just, what are you going to do? What's your plan? And not, well, you should, or don't mind them. I can't fix it. I have to coach it. And it is rough to be a mom and not fix it. It can be rough to be a boss and not fix it. And that's when coaching, how can I use the best of my top five, the best of my strengths to coach the best of yours?
Love that. That's great, great, great. And even just that last thought there. I mean, there's a few really great insights that I love that you shared there. But that last one too is how can I use my strengths to bring out the best of your strengths? Love that thought. And then I love the other thing that you shared there with your daughter. And I think a lot of leaders have that same challenge, and a lot of parents have that same challenge.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a 14-year-old daughter, and yeah, especially being empathy is one of my strengths.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely do not like seeing my kid in pain, and of course I feel it,
You
and
don't see it, you feel it.
that's right,
You
that's
wear
right,
it.
that's right. And so, having and being aware of the boundary of her own emotion and her own self, so that I don't unnecessarily carry some of that emotional weight that she should be carrying for her own growth and development. Like you shared this, that was excellent. I love that. Well, another connection that I have made, because I love the Strengthsfinder. I've been using it also for probably 10 or 15 years, and one thing that I have discovered about myself is, speaking of case studies, I'm definitely a case study as well. Being emotionally needy, emotionally unhealthy, emotionally people pleaser addict, toxic positivity, right? I have seen the impact of a low EQ, my low EQ, on my strengths, where each of my strengths can be a weakness if I'm not emotionally healthy or emotionally intelligent. Now, you mentioned a couple of times about self-awareness. I have never been self-aware until a few years ago, where I started that journey of becoming self-aware. So I would, one of the running jokes around some of my folks in my circle was, hey, did you get slimed by Noble with my bear hugs, right? Because I'd see a stranger and, woo, positivity, belief, so my
Mm-hmm.
top three, and because I had no awareness, I'd hug a stranger on a street, full big giant, and I'm a big kind of scary looking guy. So imagine a guy like me just coming up and embracing you out of nowhere, like, dude, what is going on, right? And I just thought, oh, I'm just the big teddy bear. I'm just showing love and positivity, not realizing that I was turning off so many people. So that's a way that I have seen emotional intelligence, or lack thereof, impact people's strengths. And conversely, as I've gotten healthier emotionally, I have gotten more effective and strategic at applying and implementing the strengths that God has given me.
Oh
As,
yeah.
as well, it's kind of that's kind of been my experience and how I've seen it kind of work. How does that hit you? Am I on track, off track? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I am. I did hear toxic positivity, and I with Clifton Strengths, all the strengths, no negativity can be attached. I guess that's why I love them so much, is because it's positive psychology. And that's not, I'm not going to be naive. There's, of course, there's blind spots, which you're not scientifically destined to run into. However, there's a good chance that, what we are, let's say a strength is, out of all 34, one strength is not a dominant one for you, right? That doesn't make it a weakness for you, right? It just means you can reach it if you need it, right? You can reach it if you need it. It just doesn't fire all day, every day for you.
Got it.
And so your top 5, your dominant strengths, those that happen all day, every day, those are the ones we can trip over.
Got it.
Right. And there are, affects of these that may rub people wrong. It's just, especially if they don't have it and they don't understand it, which I kind of gave you that, with my daughter. She's like, you back off. And so empathy for just walking in the room, when something's off with somebody, right?
Right.
Now you do, it. However, that doesn't mean they want you to ask. Right. So that doesn't mean, and so like asking permission is a big deal for you when you are really leaning into your strengths. You can, because some people are super private and they don't even know that they're emoting. I'm distressed, I'm in trouble, I'm off. You just feel it because that's
Right.
just who you are. It sticks to you.
Right.
And they're just like, hug me again, I'm coming.
Right. That's right.
And so it's just like hey, can I, ugh. And then you have to turn your feelers into a different lens, a different tool for you.
Right.
Like, may
Right.
I? And that's using the best of your empathy. how can you use the best of this into a fine toothed tool, right?
Right.
And that's how strengths develop. Like it's a never ending journey. We just get better and better and better at them when we really learn that just knowing your top five, like knowing, okay, these are my talents that, this is my best example that I love giving is if I ask people or when I ask people, like, what are you good at? Well, we're conditioned to say, to respond with something that you earned the right to say you're good at it. You put in the effort. You ran the miles. You bled sweat, and you cried. To earn the right to say you're good at something, right? I mean, you worked your butt off to earn it. No, these top five, like this assessment, gave you your natural talents, the things that we look at people, our friends, our colleagues, our family members, that we're just like, man, I wish I could do that. They can just stand up in front of a crowd and not, end up in the fetal position throwing up on themselves, right? Or they can just talk to strangers with ease. I could never do that, right? And I wish I could. Or they can solve math problems in their head, like, oh my gosh, like data geek, like I'm so jealous, right? And we look at people with this awe, and that's the journey of it. When I give strengths presentation, when I go talk to college and students, and I wish that I was introduced to this way early, right? It's such a gift to just then say, today I want you to start looking at yourself the way others look at you. So these things your whole life that you've dismissed, you haven't embraced because they came without effort for you. You just did them without even thinking about it. Other people think you're amazing. It's time to look at yourself and go, I'm amazing. And then the magic can really start when you realize not only these themes of talent, right, that you just have, they're also your land of opportunity, like your greatest land of opportunity. If you take talent times investment and you really pour in that practice, that knowledge, and all those things, that's how you end up with strength, and you really take these five things, these areas, and you're like, these are now my superpowers, right? And that's when I can take these and I can manage my weaknesses. I can manage my lesser themes of talent, my areas where I'm not great, right? Because I can use the best of me to manage the other areas. Those lesser themes or those weaknesses that everybody tells us, we need to fix. It's nothing deficient about you. There's nothing broken about you. That's the saddest thing about the world. Like, we've been conditioned our whole lives to be pointed out what's missing in us, right? Like, I can't even, to start, parent teacher conferences, and then work evaluations, they spend this much time at what you're good at, and then this much time is what I need you to fix. And you're like, what? What? Stick in your lane, do what you're so good at, because then not only are you outputting near perfect performance every time, it's also filling your soul. Like, it's recharging you, because the two different types of tired, when you go and you do something, because we do difficult things every day, right? But the recovery is different, right? So we could go out and do something. If you're an introvert and you're supposed to go work the recruiting booth, right? You get out there and you have to do it all day. You can, it may not be packed, but you can do it. You just need to spend the next 3 days to a week with hoodie up, pods in, like, oh, leave me alone, like, don't talk to me, right? And then if you're a woo like and you're like working that booth, you come home, it was, still an 18-hour day. I don't care. Like, it was still that long of a day, but you're like, I'm exhausted. When can I do it again? Like, I could do that. You're still tired, but you loved it because it fed you energy. It plugged you in. So those are the things, when you get a chance to identify those, whether you're working with people or on a team, and you can actually put people in their lane, that's when the magic happens. And the complementary partnerships happen. It's like, I need you for this because that when was that ever a bad thing? Like, I need to tap your woo. Okay, like, that's a compliment. I mean, that's recognition, and that's recognize your rock stars. You can't go wrong.
Yes.
You
Well,
can't.
well, and the cool thing is, I love it, Martha. Is everybody is a rock star if they can discover what their strengths are, what their superpowers are. And you may look like a different rock star than me, right? You may
You
be
should.
that's exactly right. So you may
Mhm.
be the country music rock star, I may be the hip hop rock star, there may be a classical music, like, but that's the skill of the leader to help the team identify what those individual strengths are. And again, a great tool is of course StrengthsFinder, but it's like I almost look at it like as a conductor. There are some people that have naturally are naturally trumpet players, naturally,
Mhm.
and this is again just bear with the analogy. It's not like you pop out of the womb knowing how to play the trumpet, but they're just using that as an analogy again with strengths. There's some people that naturally know how to play the trumpet. There's some people that naturally know how to play the drums, naturally know how to do the flute, the strings, that kind of thing. But when you ask the trumpet player to go play the drums, it's like there's a lot of tension there, and
Mhm.
we it's like we as a leader, it's like, well, dude, you're not performing, or you suck at this. It's like, well, but put me with the trumpet and I'll make beautiful music, right? I'll
Right.
like everyone will love it, right? And so as a leader, to know, another way the analogy I've used is like, if maybe I'm the elbow and you're the hand, but if you put the hand in the elbow spot and the elbow in the hand spot, like we're both going to be upset, and the whole body's going to be upset.
Mhm.
But when the elbow goes in the elbow spot, the hand goes in the hand spot, like everybody's happy, right? The whole body's happy, the elbow's happy, the hand's happy. I use weapon systems. If you act like you're the 240 Bravo, it's a big big machine gun, little military analogy, versus the 9 mil or the 45, like they're used for different purposes, and so it's not that, well, the 240 is bad, or the pistol is bad. No, it's just they're used for different purposes. And so when we can discover our highest and best use, and I love what you said, I've never thought about that before. The recovery time, and the type of recovery is different when
Mhm.
I love that, when you've done an 18-hour day of your strengths versus an 18-hour day of not out of your strength zone, your gifted zone. It's a very different experience. And I love what you said too. When I'm well, coaching is one of the superpowers that God's given me.
Mhm.
Positivity, empathy, belief, futuristic, developer. Those are
Mhm.
that's like that's like all great. And so for me, even though after each coaching appointment, I'm exhausted because I'm like all in. Um,
Mhm.
it's like it's almost a magnetic, like I'm drawn to that activity of coaching. And the point is, we need to have this, where the EQ comes in, is you got to have the self-awareness to know what things in life are you almost magnetically attracted to, and then what are those areas that, okay, well, I'm kind of repelled at doing spreadsheets all day, right? For
Yeah.
me, hey Noble, you need to be the accountant for the day, like, bro, like I that's not going to be a good experience for any of us, right? If I'm doing spreadsheets all
We're not
day.
going to make any money. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So anyway, love that. Okay, now, so we said empathy quite a few times, sir. So now you brought up another great point. I have worked with, and I work with a lot of Type A executives,
Sure.
and a number of them, not all of this, not all of them, but there are a number of them. Empathy is not necessarily one of their giftings, in again, in some of the executives that I'm working with somebody that does not naturally have empathy.
Mhm.
How can you use StrengthsFinder, and the assessment results to help maybe improve or grow that area or impact that area?
Okay. I'll use myself as an example. Okay. So strength envy, right? Okay. So strength envy, you pick one out and you're like, oh, people have, often, over the course of my career, told me, oh, you're an empath, like you just are so intuitive. You just know, like you can catch this. And so, going through, this has been, I don't, a lot of years, so I'm not going to give up anything. But when I started the certification, like Gallup certification to be a Gallup certified coach, right? Strengths coach, it was when they first unlocked all 34 for you, right? And so you learn, and so I'm like, okay, I knew my top 5. And so I'm like, well, obviously it's my number 6, right? Empathy is number 6. It's got to be, right? Well, when they unlock all 34, you lose that, right? Empathy, number 17 for me. So, I'm like, what? And then, the attorney that I work with, at the time was like, you don't have empathy. Not surprised. And, it was like selective empathy, or something, and I'm like, wow, so nickname became #empathy number 17. Like, okay, so, okay, that, that's nice, very kind. And then, so my little sister, as little sisters do, her number 1 is empathy. And then I thought, oh my goodness, that's when I realized, because she's a mess, like emotionally, like love mess. But I mean, that was said with, that was positive intent. Because she feels everything. And that gave me perspective, like what a burden having dominant empathy is, to go through life having to feel everything. I'm not emotionally equipped to handle that, right? Which is why I could move all those years and be okay. I had different dominant themes. I was resilient in a different fashion. I didn't feel for that long. Number 17 for me, right? I can reach it. I can feel, I can cry at certain commercials. Like, I'm not a monster, right? I'm also, I had to marry well, because I'm not, I'm not nurturing mother. Like, I handle things like it's business. My daughter learned really, really young to blow it away. Like, oh, why are you crying? Well, like what are those? What are those coming from your eyes? Like, are you sweating? Do I need to call a doctor? Like, what is that? And she's really emotional, like blames me now. She's 25. So like, now there's all kinds of therapy happening. And or fake therapy for me, like she's like, oh, and this, and this, I'm like, yes. So we're totally different strengths, by the way, which was, now I just know. Now I get it. That's empathy, not having dominant empathy. It's definitely not a get out of kindness for free card. You can't be an A-hat because you don't have dominant, right? So there it is. So how can you? That's the question, is how can you be self-aware, socially aware, managing your, culturally aware? How can you manage all of these things? And, how can you do that with using your strengths? And I kind of told you, like right in the beginning, right? When I said, my achiever, my drive to get things done, right? And produce results, it's always influenced by emotion. And, my arranger, that, I can get a read off of people, and I know how things are going to be, which arranger can be different things. I arrange people. I'm a resource for humans. Like, that is my business, right? It's always the human impact. So I am just fully aware of the emotional impact, right? Because I watch and I pay attention to everything. I may not feel it. I am aware of it because I purposely, with purpose, my strategic leans in. And people, they always say to me, after they leave a meeting, or they do we leave a boardroom, or they leave this and they go, you did that on purpose. I go, no, I did it with purpose. And then when I realized what I was doing, I may have held, some information about whatever, something that was happening on this side of the campus or this side of the, whatever. And then I, might drop it when it's relevant, right? Because, and I remember being brand new on the campus, right? And, talk about hierarchy and, old school politics and, all of these things, right? With faculty, like it exists in every corner of everything. There are politics. And I just remember being brand new, and there wasn't a chair at the table for me. So, I went next door and grabbed a chair and brought my own in and sat right down. And they kept talking about limited resources. Like, there's just limited resources. There's them. And I go, can we just stop? Like, these limited resources you're all referring to are people. So can we just say, like, there's limited people to do all of these jobs. So which jobs can go away? Because you can't keep putting more and more work on the same amount of people, because nobody wants to come to work and suck at their job. And you're going to lose these rock stars. You're going to lose these high performing, awesome workers because they just can't do it anymore. And they go home and they're mean to their families and they don't want to do that anymore. Like, so the money they're making for, we work for the people that we love. And even if it's just yourself, I hope you love yourself enough that that you're working to support yourself. Like, that's what you're doing. So what, so what are the limits here? And what are you willing to do and move and change? And they were like, who is this? Who is this person? Oh, hi, Marta. I'm a resource for humans. Nice to meet you. And I just remember them going, and then there was always a chair for me, because we forget that. And they're the humans taking on too much work too.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. The other scenario is they're also maybe mismanaging, misusing. They're putting the trumpet player behind the drums instead of, you can maybe get 10x the results if you just put the trumpet player over the trumpet section instead of with the percussion people, right? So that's excellent. That's excellent. That's awesome. Okay, one of the questions here, Marta. So it kind of ties in with exactly what you were saying there. How can strengths help increase EQ and impact and assist communication within teams, within an organization?
My favorite thing to watch, right? Because what we do, we often think that we are cognitive beings that sometimes feel, right? We are not. We are emotional creatures that sometimes think. And so most everything we do is driven by feelings. So what you say, right, and what you do, like the way I receive it is how it feels to me, right? So when a team is aware of strengths and they know the strengths, it gives everybody a common language. It gives verbiage. So when I say to you, like if I have responsibility, it's a dominant theme for me. It can be masked, or it feels like micromanaging. It feels like, because I can't be disappointed. I can't disappoint anyone. So if you're the kind of person that, we have an assignment and it's due Friday, right? And you're the kind of, this is how you roll. You're like, I'm going to, open up that file Thursday night at 10, knock it out, I'm done, right? It's due Friday at 8. I'm overseeing this and I'm checking that file because I have access to it. And Wednesday, you still haven't opened it. I'm just going to open it and do it myself because I'm freaked out at this point, right? So instead, and then you're like, what, you freak? Like, I mean, then it's like, you're just a freak. Like, I can't even work for you. You are so like, and then the animosity starts and the distrust and the, then nothing gets done because everything, that's where it breaks down. And so instead, I know you have responsibility and I have responsibility. So I can say, Noble, my responsibility is going to need to know your plan for getting this done. It's just out there and it's open and it's not personal anymore. Or my wound is going to hug you. And if you can't have a hug, when you see me come and put, here's our safe word, whatever, here's what we need. And that's because then, the strengths, they're not labels. However, it's just my achiever, I know my achiever is exhausting at times, and I know you can't work at my pace. And when, I introduce myself to new people on the team, like, hi, my name is Marta. I am an overhelper. So if you want me to help with a project, tell me up to what point, and then say, that's all I needed. And then I just told you I'm an achiever. I will not be offended whatsoever when you say, that's all I needed. I got plenty. I have lists, but otherwise I'm not going to stop helping you. And you're going to be like, what do you think? I'm an idiot and I can't finish this myself? No, I'm helping. I'm helping. Like, is what I do. and I have positivity. So I'm smiling. I'm, like we're bonding and we're laughing and I'm joking. And you just think you hate me. See what I'm saying?
100%.
It's amazing how it just takes the personal out of it. And people get to do good work.
That's right. Well, yes, this is something that I use for couples too. We're actually getting ready to do a marriage seminar in New York, and we're going to be talking about strengths. And the three biggest things that have impacted our marriage, and we're going on 25 years, over 25 years of marriage, is personality, strengths, and love languages. When we identified those three things between each other, it reduced our conflict by probably 95%.
For sure.
Because my strengths were banging up against her strengths, my personality banging up against her personality. Here's a perfect example. And for people, again, that are not super familiar with strengths, once you get familiar with this verbiage and the grammar of strengths, you will be able to hear it when other people talk, because you can't not express your strengths in some form or fashion. And so again, as you get more and more familiar with this concept, it's super helpful, because just in conversation, you can already assess, okay, this person's probably a maximizer. This person's probably deliberative. This person's probably woo. Right? You can start to kind of assess some of those things, and then again, use that to help navigate and stick them in roles and positions that will bring the best out of them, and allow them to impact the team in the most positive way and impactful way as possible. So, but when my wife and I figured out, like for example, she's strategic, deliberative, focus, achiever, and activator, right? So she's like a triple A+ personality, right? She's
deliberative. Yeah, I can. Yeah, that's my 34. That's my last one.
No way. So my wife would, she every day almost, no, but what's the plan for today? I'm like, and of course, me back before I learned about all this stuff, the P word was a cuss word for me, like planning. What, like long-term planning for me is like 5 minutes from now, right? That's like time. And she every day, no, but what's the plan? I'm like, babe, stop asking me what the plan. But again, we didn't know. I didn't know. Well, she's just deliberative. She thinks in plan. She has plans for her plans in order to plan. Right? That's how she rolls. But and she's strategic, right? So we didn't have any understanding. And then for me, she would get annoyed all the time because I talk to everybody. No, but just stop talking to people, man. Like, if you just ignore them, they'll ignore you. She's like, I do it all the time. It works great for me. And I'm like, what? How could you say that? Like, how could you say something, right? And so it was our strengths just. And then once we figured out, oh, Noble, you're woo. Oh, you're strategic, deliberative. Okay. And so then we could understand, right, that self-awareness and social awareness with each other. It was life-changing.
Yeah. My husband has restorative, number one. And so he sees everything that needs to be fixed, right? Which often feels negative. So he's like, we got it. And I'm like, can you just start one morning with something nice, like just something nice, like positivity, number 4, like just, like like what's pretty today? Like what's pretty? There's 2 females in the house. Like what looks pretty? And he's like, not the kitchen counter. That doesn't look pretty, but it's just like, it's what needs to be fixed. It's just the way he's wired. It's how, and then he has responsibility, number 2. So it's his job to fix it, so, and analytical. So we cannot grocery shop together, which not my job anyways. Like I could go, nothing will go together when I come home, cause I also can't cook. So I just misrepresented. I do not find enjoyment in it. So neither would anybody sitting at the table, like trying to find nourishment. So, it is what it is. Right. So, and now we know, and I'm just like, oh, you're right. Like list that list again. I'm an achiever. I'll make you a list of everything you need to fix, baby, because I'm on your team. And I love you. Yeah. Right. Like, and it's just, it takes that you bug me, or it removes the story we tell ourselves, because we tell ourselves a story aside from the facts, right? Because there's
Right.
facts, there's a list that needs to be fixed, but the story is he's unhappy in the house because it's a pig, like whatever, and he just hates
Right.
everything around him. No, that's not what he said at all. He just sees things that needs to be fixed.
Excellent.
See, but we're so creative. And for some reason we own the liberty to take other people's narratives and fill in those blanks.
Right.
Yeah. Self-aware.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, marital bliss.
Right. That's right. Such great points, Marta. Okay. How do we find you? How do we follow you? How do we connect with you?
Yeah, achiever. In transition. So you could, like maybe you can be the one that discovers me, because I haven't named my company or started my company. I'm still in the which through coaching, this is a gift for everyone. When you're feeling stuck or whatever it is, you may have, in our coaching cohort, I'm purposely paused, taking care of my mom. So right now I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on, Facebook. I just those things I will launch when I'm ready to rock it out. Right. And I will. I am just waiting. And then because I coach, I have I've been coaching for years and years. So right now I'm okay. And however, I need a future because I will be unemployed pretty soon, I think. And so I will go into the new world.
Awesome.
Right. And manage those life rocks. So
that's right.
Roll with the life rock.
That's right.
So I mean, you can always find me on LinkedIn.
Okay. And thank you, Marta, for sharing your insights. This has been phenomenal. This has really been helpful. Really appreciate your time and your wisdom.
Oh, thank you for inviting me to share this time with you. It's fed my soul. And thank you to everybody tuning in, because this has been phenomenal. I hope you have me back someday, because I don't think we could ever run out of topics. And when I launch, I'm calling you. Fair?
Awesome. Thank you.